Well, so often when we read a fabulous book, we want the author to sit in the living room with us and talk to us about the book and to answer all of our questions. And we are so lucky today. We have Lalita Tademy here with us today, who wrote the best-selling book, Cane River, and now she has written another book, Red River, and it is fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. And before we bombard you with all the questions that we do have, I wanted to ask you something about your personal life, because I read a little bit about you, and I thought it was fascinating that at the height of your career, you were an executive in the computer industry out west. You gave it all up to try your hand at writing. So I'm kind of curious how that journey came to be.
Actually, I didn't give it up to write. I gave it up because I thought that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. And I had been doing the corporate journey for 2 decades. And I could have gone on and I could have continued to do what I did in Silicon Valley, or even changed industries and still done the corporate thing. But I wanted to know what else there was. And so I just really quit my job with no concept of what I was going to be doing after that. And it sounded like a good idea on the Friday, but it didn't sound like such a good idea on the Monday afterwards.
It's incredibly brave, because you really were at the height of your career.
And it was scary. I had made a deal with myself that I would do that for 1 year.
Okay.
And then if necessary, tail between the legs, I would go right on back. But during that year, I got absolutely, positively obsessed with genealogy and with tracing my family tree and with the family stories that started to come tumbling out of that. And I just got absolutely absorbed with the research. And the research took me in directions that I never expected, and it was only after I had done that for quite a long time, actually, that I said, you know, I need to write this down. Some of this is so interesting, and the stories are so fascinating, and they're surprising. They're surprising me. And this is American history, and it's not being told, really.
Did you think you were writing just for your personal benefit and your family?
Absolutely. I thought...
You did not say, I'm going to shop this around.
No, absolutely. Well, for one thing, I'd never written so much as a short story before that.
Really?
This is
So
amazing.
I didn't know what I was doing, and I said, well, I would like to do this so that it captures the attention. I have 2 nephews and a niece, and I wanted to capture something for them. And so I put it together in a binder for them, our family tree, all the trees and little snippets of stories, and I handed it to each of them, and they said, oh, thank you, Aunt Lisa. And they put it on the shelf, and I said, okay, that didn't work, so now we have to go for plan B, which is I've got to write it in such a compelling way that they cannot put it down. And that's when I started and said, I'm going to write this. I'm going to write it as a novel, and I'm going to write it and I'm going to fictionalize it, but I'm going to stay true to the timeline of things as they happen, and all of the names are going to be real. And so that journey started, and then I got very stubborn that I was going to keep going, and I was going to self-publish and give it to my family. And then I said, this story is too good. I'm going to finish this, and I want it to be published by a mainstream publisher, and I want more people than just my family to be able to read it. And that began a 3-year process.
So Cane River took 3 years to write?
It took 3 years to write, and that was after the research.
Oh, wow.
Remember, I didn't know what I was doing, so a lot of what I was doing was teaching myself to write and to up-leveling. And a lot of it was about getting rejected after I thought I was finished. Agents certainly didn't think I was finished, and they would say, no, we can't represent this. And so I would just go back and rewrite it. I was rejected 13 times on the first book. Including one agent who said, slavery's been done, I can't, there's no way I could represent this, nobody wants to read about this. And each time I got rejected, if there was something useful that the agent said, then I would go back and I'd incorporate that and I'd up-level the writing. And then I would submit it again, and then it would be rejected again until lucky number 14.
Very much like a Tademy, wouldn't you say? Because if there's one thing that came through in Red River was your family name and the perseverance.
I mean, in addition to that, the appreciation for history and kind of, you know, why and where and how. And I was interested to know if you grew up with that. Was that something that your parents instilled in you, and until, or was it until you had to sort of go out and research, and similar to your niece and nephew's responses, where it's like, oh, thanks, type of thing. But, you know, if I got nothing else, definitely the appreciation for where you're coming from and how that helps and direct where you're going.
And I grew up in a household where there was such pride in the name Tademy. And the truth is that it wasn't exactly articulated why. It just, but there was something that was almost magical about it. And you could go around and all of the Tademys had this centeredness, this we're special sort of feeling. And then my parents were all about education and making sure that you were prepared. And my father, very specifically, to whom the Red River is dedicated, was a man who just felt that his kids could do anything they wanted to do as long as they understood you probably had to be better and you had to work harder, but it was there for you if you were willing to do those things. And he just did not observe natural barriers. He just didn't do it. And that certainly served me personally in good stead. And then the other part of that was just the sheer stubbornness that Tademys had. And don't tell us we can't do something, because then that's exactly what we want to do. And we'll just keep at it until